Hey friends, it's your girl Meg here, and welcome to our Wednesday live stream here. And today I'm talking about this post that I put up on my page. If you didn't see it, the quote said, "Consistency is the mother of momentum." And this is one of my 34 lessons from my 34th year, which is a series of videos and blogs I'm going to be putting out between July and August when I turn 35. And this one was just too good to wait to share because consistency has been an ongoing topic this week, with my coach and with some of the clients that I'm working with, and just in general. So I thought that it would make sense to pop in here and quickly drop some knowledge about consistency because people are like, now that I'm talking about it, people are like, oh yeah, I've been seeing your consistency, or I've noticed that you've been showing up more consistently, or it really looks like your business is hitting. And I just wanted to shed a few more thoughts and pieces on how I developed consistency and why this process wasn't pretty perfect or fun. So I moved back to Philadelphia in January. And when I moved back to Philadelphia, I had some consistency in how I showed up in my business, but definitely not, and not even in my business, but maybe a little bit in my business and a little bit in my personal life, meaning I had daily rituals. Hey, Sandy, welcome. And so I was dipping my toes into consistency because I had let some things go. And one of the things that I realized about developed consistency was that I needed to trade out some old habits for some new habits. And in trading in out some old habits for some new habits, I needed to attach my new habits to things that I was already currently doing, right? So I have a big social media presence, and I wanted to really streamline my business into one place, meaning like I was showing up for my business in this social media platform, this one, and this one. And then from a spiritual and more ritualistic side, I knew that I wanted to go deeper with some of my practices on a day-to-day basis. So consistency started with me by taking really small elementary bites and knowing going into it that I was going to fuck it up, meaning that it was never going to be perfect, and it certainly wasn't going to be fun. And like, I didn't go into consistency, jumping up and down for joy. Like, as I said in my post earlier, I am not a person that was really into consistency. Astrologically speaking, nothing about me utters consistency. Human design speaking, consistency, nope. I'm the type of person that likes to skip steps and then has to go back and fix them. And so with all this knowledge in awareness, right, of myself, I knew that consistency was not going to be a fun, fast, or easy way for me to get what I wanted, but it was the only way for me to get from point A to point B, which is from having no clients to having some clients, to having no spiritual practice, to having some spiritual practice, to having no movement in my body, to having some movement in my body. And I can look at some areas where I've developed consistency. Diet is one of those places. Giving up alcohol is one of those places. It was really easy for me to find consistency in things that didn't bring me joy, that didn't bring me personal expansion, right? Because those are the things that you can likely find other people doing. So there's a connective force on negative influences. And I'm a person that likes to have fun. And it was very easy for me to use those negative influences as a way to numb and then also con myself into thinking I was having fun. So when I started finding consistency in my business, it looked like me doubling down on a handful of actions every single day and writing them down every single day before I did them. And then, look, I'm still doing it, holding myself accountable to crossing them off the list. And if I didn't cross them off the list, keeping the list ready for when I made my list for the next day. I am in also what forced me in consistency was necessity. I work a pretty wild schedule throughout the week. I do some work outside of the house. I do a majority of my work inside the house. And in doing that, I needed to make sure that I was showing up consistently, even when I couldn't be at my desk. Right. And so that meant that I needed to think ahead about some things that I was creating in my business. That meant that if I was waking up early on a Tuesday, that I needed to build in that time to be able to show up to my daily rituals. And if I wasn't going to show up, what was my bare minimum? Right? And in understanding my bare minimum, I could check that box. Okay, I meditated for 15 minutes. Awesome. Also fitting things in places that I wouldn't have otherwise found to fit them in. I meditate on Tuesdays before I go into my shift that I work. And I do that because I'm not meditating at 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm waking up, but I am doing my gratitude journaling at 4 o'clock in the morning. And this wasn't schedules that came out of nowhere. It's like trial and error, right? So I would fall off and get back up, fall off, get back up. And that was the thing, is that like, I used to be the type of person that once I fell off the wagon was like, what's the point of getting back on the wagon? And what I have found is that I have become the type of person that appreciates the tenacity that it takes to get back up and try again. And I really do believe that every moment, this one, this one, this one, this one, is an opportunity to choose differently, either side of the spectrum. You can choose to fall off. You can choose to get back on. You can choose not to honor what it is that you want right now and fall into old patterns, recognize them, and then choose to get back. You don't have to wait for a birthday, an anniversary, a Sunday, a Monday, or Tuesday. That's your procrastination. That's your fear. That's your self-sabotage getting in the way of what is important to you. And so the process wasn't fun because I didn't want to double down on consistency. Right? Yes. Amanda says small hinges swing big doors. It's so true. I am a big proponent of small manageable bites, right? Consistency develops momentum because it's like riding a bike. Those first couple pedals uphill are not easy, but when you find that stride, you're into it, right? When you are developing a habit or letting something go, there is a gentleness and a tenderness and a heaping dose of self-compassion that needs to be taken into account because this is something new, right? What grows you stretches you. It's in that stretching that you're able to root into your mental resilience to say, oh, this is what it feels like to be stretched. I know that in my stretching, I'm expanding. I know that in my expansion, I'm growing. I know that in my growth, I'm able to show up in service to myself, my dreams, my passion, my people, my family in bigger, more impactful ways. And so, you know, what I see a lot of times are people self-sabotaging because they're really subscribing to some stories about why they can't show up the way they want to. Or they're looking at other people that are further along in their journey and being like, oh, I want what they have. Or they're getting really fucking nostalgic and they're looking back and saying like, oh, I remember when things were easy and, you know, nice like that. Remember that the lens with which you are looking or grading or judging yourself or other people is thoroughly dependent on the state of mind that you find yourself in this moment. So if you're hating on some consistency, it's probably because there's a deeper knowing that consistency is going to grow you, stretch you, and allow you to become a better version of yourself. And the resistance is there to keep you safe in what you know is already working for you. Right? It might not be working for you in the larger grand scheme of things, but it's working for you in a sense of like, your anxiety isn't triggered or you're not feeling immense discomfort in everything that you do. Momentum is what's generated when you get clear on where you want to go. So before you ever develop some consistency, you have to have a really, you know, strict plan on what you want. I want to relieve myself of chronic pain. I want to not have my body covered in hives. I want financial freedom, right? And then consistency comes in. And the hard part about it is that you have to make sacrifices, right? Because now you have to do things consistently to get to your goal, right? To meet that benchmark, even if it's just the first level of that benchmark. I believe goals should have benchmarks, meaning this is the first small bite. After taking so many bites, I get to this point. And after I take so many bites, I get to this point, right? This especially comes into play when you're building anything, a business, a side hustle, a creative project, a nonprofit, a place for your advancement. You can't